is happening right this second out on Facebook. So we're thrilled to be able to have you join us out there as well. We got Las Vegas here. Welcome, welcome. Again, we're thrilled to be able to have you here and join us on another amazing Wednesday science call. We call it Lunchtime Science with Dr. Jen Myers. And what a treat we have. I just want to make sure you guys know, I don't want to like be a buzzkill right at the beginning of the call, but I want to make sure you note on your calendars that Jen will be out next week doing some filming. And so not with us, but with Euphoria. So she's going to be helping us out with the next upcoming video, guys. And so we're going to give her a break next week, but not really. But just make a note, we do not have this broadcast next week. And then we will, I believe we'll be on for the week after, though. We've got Las Vegas. Hey, Bernard, great to have you here. I'm just going to go out and check out on Facebook right now, make sure everything is looking good. And we are live. And then we will get this party started. And with Dr. Jen Myers. Hope you're having an amazing Wednesday wherever you are. Maybe you took a lunch break and you're out sitting in your car or whatever the case may be. Yep, we are live on Facebook. Thrilled to have you guys here. Kansas City is checking in out on Facebook. We have got Linda saying hello. Fantastic. We love seeing you out there. So go ahead and say hi to us out on Facebook. And let's go ahead and get started. You guys know I like to start things on time, and we are 12 o'clock straight up. We want Jen to have all the time she can possibly have. Because, guys, we're talking about, I'll let her introduce it, but I introduced it last week. We're thrilled that she's going to be here. And just, you guys, can you just put your hands together for a moment and give us a big round of applause for Jen Myers, everybody. Yeah, we love Jen. Jen, the call is yours. Thanks so much for being here with us, and thrilled to learn about some new cool genetic SNP variant niner mutant thing going on with you. Tell us today, what are we talking about?
Oh, we're talking about my favorite thing in the world, which is mitochondria. Yes. Powerhouse, right? It's all about being powerhouses, of course. So guess what, guys? Looking at all these 18 genetic variants and SNPs that we have here that we test through Euphoria, these are our last two that we're talking about with lifestyle. So I will not be in next week. Like Craig said, I will be filming with John Moyer and a few others for Euphoria, which is super exciting here in the office. So I'll be back the following week. And I think we're going to start diving into some ingredients and just kind of going over these really amazing ingredients that I love within the formula and what they mean for us. I try to touch on them every so often, but I think it's better if we can kind of dedicate a whole 30 minutes to like one or two ingredients. I think that would be awesome. I hope you guys agree with that. You can let me know yay or nay, or if there's something else that you want to discuss as well, it would be great to have some feedback. Absolutely. So without further ado, let's talk about your powerhouse, shall we? So we're going to talk about two variants today in particular. The first one being the NQ01. So this is kind of a family of these bioactive compounds, if you will. And they have these super important roles. And I always say super important because everything to me in genetics is super important. So their roles are actually in energy intensive pathways, right? So these are more of like our aerobic respiration. These are kind of responsible for generating things like ATP, which we talk about in mitochondria quite a bit. So ATP, which we'll get into a little bit also, is kind of thought as our transportable energy currency within our bodies. Transportable energy currency within our bodies. So it's a really important mechanism that happens biochemically that puts energy into every cell of our bodies. It creates energy for us to do everything that we do on a daily basis. So of course, this is something that we want to have enough of. And in my opinion, and this is why I love mitochondria so much, it is the reason that we do the things we do. It is the reason that we age gracefully. But the negative flip side is, it's the reason that we age aggressively. It's the early cell death. It's the early, chronic disease, kind of brings us into a chronic disease form, ages us faster, and unfortunately puts us, Craig, what was your statement last week? I forget what it said. It's something about if you're not dead, then I don't even remember. What was it?
Yeah, it's better than being dead, right? When we were talking about how we were doing, saying, hey, doing.
You want good
well.
mitochondria because it's better than being dead. That's our new catchphrase. I love it. So mitochondria being super important, right? So if you don't mind, Craig, I'll have you move on to the next one because you put together this really awesome slide. Oh, okay, wait a second. Okay, let me move on to the ATP5C1 then. And then we'll talk about why they're important. Absolutely. I'm sorry, guys. That was my fault. So ATP, of course, is energy currency. And this ATP5C1 SNP comes within what we have this respiratory chain of creating ATP. So there's a huge process that's involved with it. It's not just the body says, oh, I'm going to create ATP within my mitochondria and everything is going to be great and we have all this energy. No, there's this really long process. ATP5C1, you'll see, is the fifth, that's why there's a 5 in there, the fifth step within this respiratory chain to create mitochondria. So we really want to make sure that we can keep our mitochondria super strong and ramp it up. And we'll talk about why here in a minute. But ATP is kind of, like I said, the main source of all the energy for most, if not all, cellular processes in the body. It's the building block, right? The building block of ATP. ATP actually consists of things like carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus. So those are the 5 things that create ATP, or that they're actually the building blocks of it. So since they can be kind of unstable at times, that we've noted, and because they're so high energy and these bonds are so high energy in ATP, it actually creates or releases these super large amounts of energy, which is needed for everything that we do in our day, in our bodies. No matter what it is that we do on a daily basis, this is required. So it's extremely critical for any kind of daily function, as well as contraction of muscles. So ATP is actually needed for our muscles to contract. So it binds with something we call myosin and actually provides energy and facilitates its binding to something we call actin, which creates the muscle contraction, right? We want to keep our muscles nice and strong. We want to be able to contract and as well as relax our muscles. These are this is why you think powerhouse, right? It has something to do with the muscles. It has something to do with energy. This is power. This is what we want to make sure that we can support, and also make sure that we look into some possible genetic variances or predispositions, so we can go in and we can support and hone in and actually make it so our mitochondria is ramped up so we can kick more ass. Why is this gene important? So this is the ATP5C1. So this gene actually creates, like I said, ATP. I'm just kind of reading off this slide. It's part of complex number 5, like I said, in the respiratory mitochondrial chain. It's important for ATP within every single cell of our bodies. So what we want to do and why we give, and I'm sure you've heard it in all my SNP videos, individuals with the SNP and the ATP5C1 gene can benefit from supplementation with euphoria by supporting mitochondrial functioning and supporting cellular energy. Craig, if you could go to the NQ01 slide for me where you break that down and we can talk about that, then we can get into lifestyle. So I'm not going to go through all this, guys, because I have before, and plus it's on the SNPs. If you click on them and I explain them, this is a really high antioxidant, right? NQ01 has a lot to do with the production of CoQ10. CoQ10 also has to do with the production of ubiquinone and ubiquinol, which are extremely important ingredients that actually, and compounds that actually help our body to be able to create a more of an antioxidant support and create ATP and mitochondria within each cell. So these are needed and necessary for not just, everybody seems to think of CoQ10 as cardiovascular support, and it really is, but there's so much more involved with ubiquinone and ubiquinol. Oxidized is ubiquinone, reduced form is ubiquinol. Depending on your variant, will tell us that we've seen per study which ingredient or which form you actually need that your body's going to benefit the most from. That's what we look at, guys. We study these biochemical pathways within all these different variants, and we can see what we need to come in and support. And then we look at the clinical data and research, of course, to say how much of this has been used clinically to be able to support these genetic variances and where have we seen the best results. So we're really getting to dive into, this This is science, Euphoria Science. This is a science-based company, and we look at the science quite extensively as well. So with that said, I actually support the mitochondrial theory, right? That it's determination of human longevity. I really do. And I think I've said this enough. Mitochondria is one of my favorite things to study, one of my favorite things to treat, and one of my favorite things to look at when we're assessing a patient. So if we can have a more functional mitochondria in our cells, we have a greater chance for overall health and wellness and durability and longevity. So that's important. If these mitochondria aren't healthy and creating new cells, what do? They start to die. They age and they die. When our cells die, that kind of gets us into a road of chronic disease and possibly early death. And I don't like to use that word, but it's true. So we want to make sure it's really important to keep our mitochondria happy. And why is that? Well, think about it. So for starters, right, the health of our mitochondria is kind of tells us how robust our metabolism is, how energetic and focused we feel. Craig and I were just talking about focus not too long ago, how clearly we think. Those are important. So if we start to notice brain fog or, my clarity, my crispness of thinking really isn't as strong as I'd like it to be, usually we need to go and check the mitochondria. The majority of the mitochondria is actually located in our prefrontal cortex, which is right in the front of our foreheads, of course, and also as women in our ovaries. It's also contained in our brain, our hearts, our lungs. So it's contained into a lot of different things, but the majority are what I just said. So we want to make sure that we, what do I tell patients? Okay, we're like a factory, right? And I know don't like to use that terminology, but we have stuff to do. We've got all these things that we want to get accomplished on a daily basis. We've got work, we've got family, we've got kids. If we don't have kids, we still have a million other things that we have to do. So if the production of this factory or the way this factory runs starts to slow down, things start to back up, and then there's some chaos, right? And that's when we start to feel like we can't get anything done. Now I can't think straight. I'm so overwhelmed with all these different things I have to do. And that's probably a little bit of me today, guys. So sorry, it's all good stuff though. I'm super excited about everything that's going on. So we want to make sure that we produce enough energy cellular level so we can produce enough energy within ourselves and get the things done that we need to get. So when we produce less mitochondrial energy, we also don't get the nutrients that we need. So our body doesn't absorb all these great nutrients. And then we kind of, our bodies become overtaxed, right? So it's a little bit easier to become exposed to a lot of different things like stress, toxins, electromagnetic frequencies, yeah, I said it, infections, allergens, and just trying to do the things we need to do on a daily basis so we don't become sedentary. We don't want a sedentary body, right? We don't want to be the point where I just can't do anything. I'm so tired all the time. Or my recovery after I do something is like, that takes 2 days to get over this, where I should be bouncing back quickly. That's all it has to do with our mitochondria and the amount of energy our cells provide. So, like I said, what do we get? We get brain fog, where we just feel like we can't think straight. We have a body that's extremely lethargic, and we also can predispose our risk for obesity. So we want to be able to ramp up our mitochondria. We have found that there's a negative impact also on our telomeres, right? Which of course is the DNA that helps kind of determine the length of our life. Unfortunately, that's, and I know we talked about that before, and we'll get into AC11 again. So slowing down this slide or this progression or decreasing those telomeres can be a matter of life or death. And I don't mean to scare you guys. That's not what I'm trying to say. And it's not immediate. It takes time, of course, but we want to make sure that we can keep this up. The good news, right? There's a number of steps that we can take right now, and you are taking right now by taking your nutrition, to getting your mitochondria back into the game, right? That's what we want. We want to get it back into the game, get it to where it's hyper-focused and it's ready to take on whatever we need to take on. I want you to be able to take on your day like no other. I don't care what it is you need to or want to or have to do. So it's super well worth the effort to be able to strengthen our mitochondria, because the more boost our mitochondria gets and the quality and quantity that it does get, the better you're going to feel, the more gracefully you're going to age, and the clearer you're going to think. I mean, doesn't that sound wonderful? I think it sounds quite wonderful. So, mitochondria, okay? Again, my favorite thing. Are we ready to learn how to kick more ass in life? I know I say that all the time, but that's the best way to explain mitochondria and what we want to do with it. Nobody likes a weak powerhouse. Nobody. So we want to ramp up our mitochondria. So all of our cells have these generators, and they're called mitochondria, generating energy constantly. So the health of our mitochondria determines on the amount of ATP that they can produce, right? And that can come from the calories that we eat and the oxygen that we consume as well. So without this robust amount of mitochondria, cells can't do the work, they don't create ATP, we don't stay healthy as long. So let's start with my top few things to do to create more mitochondria and to kick more ass. Stop doing the things that make you feel bad. I know that sounds crazy, but that's what I tell my patients. If it doesn't make you feel good, stop doing it. Don't eat it. Don't do it. If you don't feel good after you do something and you eat like those kryptonite foods, right? So this sounds, there you go, sounds simple, stupid, right? Okay, so. Craig, you're not supposed to play that.
Oh wait, that was the wrong clip for those. I apologize, everyone.
These are your kryptonite foods, right? Yeah, of course, maybe they look a little bit young. He's killing me. I love this. It's such a fun topic for me, so this is great. We don't want to take away our kryptonite foods, the foods that make us feel bad, the foods that make us tired. When you eat, you shouldn't be tired. You should have energy and feel good. You shouldn't have a headache. You shouldn't be lethargic. You shouldn't feel anything but good, clean energy after you eat food. So if it doesn't do that, it's a kryptonite food. It's going to take away your superpowers. Stay away from it. So there's the stop doing the things that make you feel bad part. Number 2, create more energy. How do we do that? How do we create more energy, especially mitochondrial energy? How do I do that? Well, nutrition. Stop eating those kryptonite foods. Eat healthy foods, which we'll talk about some of those, and take your nutrition, okay? Even if you don't have those genetic variants that we talked about, the NQ01 or the ATP5C1, there's still ingredients within your base that are gonna help ramp up your mitochondria and help you feel good. And your body will respond better to somebody who doesn't have or does have those variants and needs those extra boosts to be able to do so. Number 3, watch those environmental toxins. Thank you. Environmental toxins, the janitor, right? That's what I call it. It's called the janitor. It's called mitophagy is what I call the janitor. So that's mitochondria and autophagy, which helps take out trash, right? So these are some toxins. These are some great ones. Poisoning, any kind of heavy metal poisoning. Fluoride, yes, fluoride is a toxin. Diesel, I don't know. It is, but you kind of have to be huffing it, I think. I don't know what I feel about that one. BPA is definitely a toxin. Stay away from those plastic bottles. Carry things around in stainless steel cups, in glass. I drink out of mason jars as well. Lead, again, a heavy metal. Mercury, again, a heavy metal. Don't eat farmed fresh fish. That's not good. Try to do wild caught if possible. Smoking is one of the biggest contributors to knocking down your mitochondria, FYI. So they need oxygen, right? So 1, they need oxygen, and 2, they need to not be fed toxins. So you're giving them 2 things, a decreased amount of oxygen, and you're feeding them the toxins and the chemicals that are in the cigarettes. Stop smoking, stop vaping. I say that every time. Exhaust and pollution, if you live in a heavy polluted or very business, industrial type of area, that can be kind of a knock to your mitochondria. Certain things in alcohol, yes, if we drink excessive amounts of alcohol or more than, what did I say, one to 2 per day if you're a male and 1 a day if you're a female. Flame retardants, any kind of chemicals that you're going to spray on. Those can actually kind of decrease the amount of oxygen that our mitochondria get and actually cause mitochondrial cell death. Again, ammonia, or aluminum, parabens, all that stuff is chemicals and heavy metals. So we want to try to avoid those. Or remove them as much as possible. We can't be perfect 100% of the time, and I know I've said that, and that's okay. But guess what? We are addressing this with your nutrition, which is even cooler. We're able to put things into your body with the nutrition that's going to help rid these things in a natural way. So you don't have to do these crazy heavy detoxes all the time. Nobody wants to do that. My other favorite thing that works really well with boosting mitochondria, intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting does help. Okay, so fasting does support. That's not fasting, Craig. What's that?
Well, that's intermittent fasting. So you look at the clock and you're only going to eat for a certain number of hours.
I see it now.
You with me? You with me?
That's 11 to 4 or 5. That's a little stiff. All right, but that's
All right.
good job on that one. So intermittent fasting. So fasting, of course, always supports high quality mitochondrial, what we call networking. It removes those damaged mitochondria and replaces them with those robust new ones. I think Craig's still on the show. I love it. He's brilliant though. So my window of intermittent fasting is 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's what works for me. 6 hours is aggressive. I tell most patients to do anywhere between 8 to 12, 8 to 10 is ideal of where you're going to eat. And it's actually providing more mitochondria. It's keeping those damaged mitochondrial cells from becoming and metastasizing, becoming worse. It's removing them and it's replacing them with robust ones. So intermittent fasting is wonderful for many things, autophagy including, like we talked about before, as well as giving ourselves some healthier mitochondria. Another thing, stress. Can't take stress away. I know we talk about it every single time too, but it's true, right? So any type of stress, exercise stress, the stress of a relationship, of a job, the stress that we put on ourselves to be, as good as we can possibly be. If we're putting that kind of stress on ourselves, we're not going to be is optimally charged and feel as good and be able to do the things that we want to do every day. So exercise is good, and that's going to help, especially things like high intensity interval training. One of the best ways to boost your mitochondria, I'm also going to let you in on a couple little gems here, but is HIIT, or high intensity interval training. There was actually a paper written 2017. It was in Cell Metabolism, and they actually found that HIIT causes cells to make more proteins, right? And that feeds our mitochondria. So that made these powerhouses more robust. So they actually confirmed that with HIIT, a 49% increase, 49%, that's kind of huge, in mitochondrial capacity in younger, healthier adults in this study, right? The older volunteers, now I didn't get the age, so I apologize. I don't like to use the word old ever. The more seasoned volunteers experienced a 69% increase. That's huge. That's from 6 minutes a day about of high intensity interval training. Now, here's one of the best ways to be able to help mitochondria as well. Sprint as fast as you can, and it looks always silly when people do this, but that's okay. Sprint as fast as you can, okay? Try to do it for as long as you can. I would say no more than 20 to 30 seconds. I know that doesn't sound like much, but when you're putting 100% into your sprint and you're getting after it, 20 to 30 seconds is a good amount of time. At the end of that 20 to 30 seconds, lay down. I know that sounds crazy. Lay down on your back, lay down. Don't look dead like I just tried to, but lay down on your back, lay there, 10 to 20 seconds, get up, do it again, and try to do that for those 5 to 6 minutes of that HIIT time, and that will help boost mitochondria. People are going to look at you like you're out of your freaking mind, but that's okay. It doesn't matter because you're boosting your mitochondria. Another thing, lack of sleep. Sleep is super important, and it's terrible to preach at the choir sometimes because I don't sleep as much as I probably need to as well. Lack of sleep is really detrimental to your mitochondria. That's when this brain cleanse happens, if you will. It's highly active during sleep and during the night. So this requires energy from our mitochondria to be able to do this brain cleanse. So what we call restorative sleep, right? Restorative sleep allows the brain to clear and kind of bypass these thinking wastes, right? These wastes that are coming into our cells and maintain healthy mitochondria. So sleep is very important, not just the amount, but the quality is also important as well. Sunlight, sunshine is important, believe it or not. It is one of the most powerful mitochondrial boosters that we have. Okay, so sensible sunlight, of course. We don't want to burn. We don't want to do too much. So 15 to 20 minutes a day out in the sun, not long sleeve, not fully dressed. Don't go out there naked. You might call the cops. But go out there and let your sun be exposed, or your skin be exposed to the sun. Okay, so this is one way, and it's free. It's free. It's a free way and an easy way to kind of manage your mitochondria. And as it turns out, sunlight actually triggers changes inside your cell. So that way it does boost the mitochondrial production. So that's a really cool thing too. Quit eating sugar and grains. We all know sugar's crap, right? I think I threw a loophole in here for Craig, sorry. Eat too much and your mitochondria can't burn it. That's why intermittent fasting is really important also, because it gives your body a chance and your mitochondria a chance to get rid of the crap before you give it more. Hopefully you're not giving it crap all the time. There you go. So we know sugar is crap. We know that our mitochondria can't keep up if we're eating too much of it. So it can't burn it fast enough for energy. It ends up kind of getting stored as fat and creating free radicals and oxidative stress, which is very damaging to our cells and to our body. The less sugar that you eat, the better. So one of the ways we kind of say just to stay away from those processed sugars and those grains as much as possible, because grains are also kind of can be exposed to molds, and that also kind of hits at our mitochondria, which I'll talk about if we still have time. Ditch the dirty stuff, right? So that's foods that are grown and produced with pesticides and toxins, right? Glycophosphate, I'm going to call them out. So those kind of things really damage our mitochondria. So eating organic, there you go, Craig. Eating organic foods is way, way, way better to do. Local, local farmed, support your local farmers if you can, that's great. Pasture raised, grass fed products, try to avoid all those factory farmed foods and those processed foods. I know I said it last time, shop on the outskirts of your grocery store as much as possible. We do have some processed foods every once in a while, and that's okay, but try not to eat it too terribly often. And Craig, you can keep this picture up, eat the rainbow. The more colors on your plate, the more phytonutrients that are available to nourish and protect your body's tiny but profuse and profound cellular powerhouses, your mitochondria, right? So load up on those leafy green vegetables and sulfur-rich veggies, things like cauliflower and cabbage, right? Those, I love cabbage, or bok choy. Oh my gosh, I crave bok choy. I'm a weirdo, I know. Eat those things, and those will help provide antioxidants and feed your mitochondria in a really healthy way. Plus, it also helps the body produce things like glutathione, which is the master detoxifier in all of our cells. And that is what we call the mother of all antioxidants. So that actually helps the cells rid the garbage and the bad mitochondria so we can have robust new mitochondria there. Dig into fats, right? Mitochondria can use up either fatty acids or carbohydrates to create ATP. So what do we want? We wanted to have, and carbohydrates, when I say that, I mean vegetables. I don't mean grains and cereals. So we want to make sure that if we could eat healthy fats, which we talked about last week with all those amazing oils, it creates a more efficient energy, and also kind of creates fewer byproducts of free radicals too. So healthy fats, just like we talked about last week in those oils, if you need to go back and listen to it, please do so. Have a cup of bone broth. I know it sounds gross to some people. Heat it up. You can drink it like tea. Put it into your food while you're cooking. Bone broth's warm and it's comforting. We're getting ready, thank goodness, my favorite time of year, to come up on fall now. So we can have, I just heat it up like it's a little cup of tea, and that's what I drink. It contributes to mitochondrial health, of course, by protecting the gut lining. Right? And also delivering those certain doses and types of amino acids, which are those smaller, broken down, easier to absorb proteins that our cells thrive on. And they do. They need amino acids. That's important. Also, our omega-3s. Up your omega-3s, right? Eating more omega-3s will help build kind of the mitochondria's protective membranes, and that results in more energy for you. So it's a win-win. You can use low mercury. It's hard to get no mercury, but low mercury wild-caught fish will help with your omegas, grass-fed meats, some nuts, especially walnuts. Although when you do eat nuts, try not to eat more than a palm of your hand. And I'm not talking about a piled up palm, the palm of your hand at a time. Seeds, different seeds, and egg yolks, but eat the whole egg because they actually work best together. Those are some ways to increase your omegas through foods. Now, I only have a couple minutes left. So 2 of the ingredients that we use within these variants, PQQ, for the first time in scientific history, PQQ is available, and it's available in your nutrition. It's something that we've been studying for a long time, and it's been used quite a few years now, but it's more readily available, and of course, it's in your nutrition as well. This increases the functionality of our existing mitochondria. Okay, so then it also helps promote and generate new mitochondria inside our aging cells. That's why we use it for the ATP5C1 variant, is because it works to help get rid of the old stuff and generate the more robust new stuff so we can keep our mitochondria young and healthy. Cellular aging is extremely detrimental. We don't want that, right? We want the proper nutrients to provide and protect not only our existing mitochondria, but also our new young ones. And that's also where ubiquinone and ubiquinol come into effect as well. Both of these ingredients are powerhouses, and they support our powerhouses, and they're in your nutrition. How cool is that? So if you have these variants for the NQ01 and the ATP5C1, they're in your nutrition. If not, do you need to take them extra? I don't know, that's something we can talk about at a later date, but there's also other ingredients within your nutrition and your base that will help support mitochondrial health. So real quick, I know it's time. There's a couple labs that you could do or have your practitioner do and perform to make sure that your mitochondria is performing well. Mitochondria is responsible for hormones. Have your progesterone checked. That's a big one. Progesterone, testosterone, pregnenolone, DHEA. Hormones improve mitochondria. Mitochondria helps hormones. Another thing is your thyroid tests, right? Check your thyroid levels, your TSH, your free T4, total T3, thyroid antibodies. This instantly stimulates mitochondria, your thyroid does. Check your blood sugars, especially your fasting ones, fasting glucose, your insulin levels, your hemoglobin A1C. Type 2 diabetics have low mitochondria. So with that said, your mission is to make your mitochondria thrive, make it rock. So kick more ass, boost your mitochondria. Thanks, guys.
Jen, what a blast. Hey, everybody, let's give her a little round of applause, okay? Just a reminder, everybody, that Jen will not be with us next week. Make a note, not next week. I know, go through your withdrawals right now, throw your tantrums, and she will be back with us the week after, so not next week. Again, thank you so much, Jen, for educating us, inspiring us, and just thrilled to be able to share a few minutes with you today. Thank you to everyone out there, whether you've been on our chat with our Zoom or on Facebook. We love our family out there. Thanks again. And welcome to Euphoria, where being you never felt better. You guys, everybody have a great day. Take care.